Well, hello, what's up, trainers, and welcome to the next episode of the PokeCentered Podcast, your one-stop shop for anything and everything Pokemon. I am Wazakis Gaming, your host, and with me today is actually our first ever guest on the show, in the Doodler. Hello.
I didn't realize I was the first guest. That's so exciting.
Yes, this is going to be the first episode that airs. So if this is your first time listening into the podcast, we are looking to center different members of the community, from shiny hunters to collectors, play some games, answer some questions sent in by you all, the fans, and just have an overall good time. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, Finn, for those who may not be familiar with who you are or what you do, what do you do?
I'm Finn.Doodles, as people refer to me sometimes. I do doodles, I draw. In general, I just collect a lot of cards, not super good at any specific area of Pokemon, but I am kind of a jack of all trades. So I like playing the games, I liked watching the show when I was a kid, have been collecting the cards since forever, but in general I just really like Pokemon. I think they're really fun.
No, that's great. Honestly, I feel the same way sometimes, because I mainly do Pokemon news content, and sometimes it's really hard for me because it's like I can reiterate information, but like the breakdowns for how to do stuff, I'm like, I don't know. Hit the attack button. That's pretty much all that I do. But I actually really do want to talk about your content creator journey, because you are a notable trainer for Pokemon Worlds this year, right?
I cannot believe it. I'm so excited.
Huge congratulations.
You as well.
Yeah, I'm so excited to meet all of you guys and exchange trainer cards and stuff at Worlds. I think it's going to be so fun. So I actually, as someone who is a fan of Pokemon in general for their entire life, what does it mean for you as a content creator to go from watching the anime, collecting cards, to next thing you know, you're getting invited to Pokemon Worlds, and it's a much more tangible part of your journey? Like, what does this mean for you as a fan and a content creator?
It's been really, really strange. So I only started really making videos 2 years ago. And I made like my first Pokemon video that just went super viral and out of nowhere. And I had some followers on TikTok, whatever. I'd been doing my thing. But then I made this video that got 3 million views. And all of a sudden, for the very first time in my life, I had other people who wanted to hear about Pokemon from me. Because like in my real life, like obviously I have people who like are my friends and stuff, but none of them really liked it that much. And so whenever I started talking about it, it's just like, they're doing this for me. They don't actually like care about this conversation. But which like is fine. It's totally great to have friends who want to hear about your interests, whether they care or not about the topic. But like, for the first time ever, 2 years ago, I found all these other people who really, really liked Pokemon and wanted to talk about them as well with me. And that was insane. That was super weird for me. And so these last 2 years have been the most like enriching for my hobby that I have ever experienced before, because now suddenly I have people who want to hear about it, and even the Pokemon company has decided it's just like, yeah, this one's pretty good.
This one's good. We'll keep this one.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that for you. And I'm really excited. Is this your first time?
It is, yeah.
Honestly, are you nervous? Because I'm a little nervous. I'm a little bit
nervous.
like,
oh my God,
I don't know what to
scared.
expect. Like, I've seen the size of like some of like the NAICs, but this is supposed to be like huge. And it's going to be like really surreal, because I've been watching like creators like Real Breaking Nate and Deep Pocket Monster stuff do this for years. And so now to be the one actually doing it's kind of crazy. Actually, so now that we are talking about Worlds, is there anything in particular that you're like, I'm so excited for this?
I'm really excited to see just in general what they have going on there, because like I know that it's a tournament and everything, but I don't know what it is besides that. So because there's going to be all these people here, there's obviously going to be the Pokemon Center, but like besides that, like I know there has to be like activities or something like that, but we haven't really heard anything about what we're going to be doing at all at this. And so I'm really excited to see like what all like going to Worlds means, and then meeting all of the people, of course, but just like seeing what they have prepared. Yeah.
So we got to talk about your TikTok series that you do, and how I actually found you before we kind of, existed in the same space. I had been watching your elimination series.
Yes.
Since episode 1, and I didn't even realize it. And I have to tell you, episode 1, the gasp I gusp at Sylveon felt like a hate crime.
Good. That was wild that it happened on episode 1. I was expecting to lose some that I was just like, okay, oh, that kind of sucks, but like not like a heavy hitter like Sylveon.
Not like that. Yeah, exactly. So I did take a look at the spreadsheet just to kind of gauge. And I just want to let you know, my husband is very much excited that Toad School is still in the running. And Piplup, that's my pick. That's my pick. Is there a Pokemon that you're like, kind of hope that this one wins?
Well, my favorite Pokemon are Wooper and Quagsire, and Wooper is already gone, so I'm real sad about that. But
I guess
I'm still rooting for Quagsire at this point. But I also, the way that it lined up, there was actually an error in when I was spinning the wheel once, where Chinchino just like put itself back on the list. And so I like spun it a second time, and I didn't like realize it when I was recording. And then I like looked back at it when I was filling out the spreadsheet, and I was like, wait a minute.
You're cheating. Get out of here. Wait a minute.
And so the way that it has lined up now is that if I keep like eliminating them in batches of 20 or 50 or whatever, we're set to have 6 at the end. And so what I'm hoping is that those 6 are all able to be found in one game or something, and maybe I could like make a team out of it and then do a run like that. So honestly, I'm just hoping that it's not like Basculin, because or like Magikarp at the end. In like the final 6, I just want some Pokemon that I think that maybe I could beat a game with.
And I'm sorry, we actually totally jumped the gun. For those listening, can you really quickly describe what you're doing with this elimination series?
Oh, for sure. I filled up a wheel with all 1025 Pokemon, and I'm spinning a couple every week to see which ones get eliminated, and the last ones that are available on the last ones to get spun, that's the one who's gonna win. And I just kind of want to see.
Honestly, I was gonna ask your permission to steal your idea of spinning the wheel, because I thought maybe I could use this to decide my next Pokemon tattoo, whatever it is. If it's an Ice Cube, that's what we gotta do. Not that Ice Cube's bad, but it's interesting.
Should absolutely do that, but I will say that the spin the wheel is not my original idea. Like, I've seen a ton of other people do it. I was watching a series where people were spinning the wheel for every single Legend of Zelda character, and that's where I got the idea for it. I was just like, oh, that would be really fun. And then since starting that, I hadn't found any other people who were doing Pokemon ones, but since starting that, I have, and now I'm just like, oh, dang, I didn't mean to, like, step on your toes there, people who are already doing this.
No.
I looked ahead of time to see if there were, because I didn't want to do that specifically, but not everything.
You have an idea, and you're like, no one else has thought of this, and it's like, oh, well, actually,
I'm sure I was sure people had thought of it, but I just couldn't find any in like happening currently. So I was just like, okay, I just don't want to be like, oh, this is my original idea. I'm the only one who's ever thought of this. Nobody has ever done it before. I just wanted to do something kind of fun.
Now, honestly, I feel like I've been seeing a lot more people doing like ranking Pokemon or like the random generators on TikTok than I've seen the Spin the Wheel series anyways. But there you go. If you want to spin a wheel, go spin a wheel. Everybody gets to spin a wheel. Now, I did have a question for you. So you have another series on TikTok where you change the color of existing shiny Pokemon because you have very strong color theory opinions. And I just want to, I did have a question to just like, what a brave thing to do, right? Because I feel like the Pokemon community is very much adamant about everything. So what is going into the decision-making process when you're like, I'm going to take this Pokemon and I'm going to put it in like in a color changer or something, and I'm going to tweak it? Like, how, as someone who doesn't do color theory very well, what is that like?
Well, mostly it's a lot of the Pokemon with their shinies actually make my job pretty easy, because at least for gens 4 and before, all of the shiny Pokemon were randomly generated for the most part. I think they changed Charizard. I think it was originally like purple, and they turned it like the iconic black shiny that they have. I think there might be a couple others in there that are kind of like that, but most of them, I guess it was just like, it was like a coding shift, so it was just like, oh, it's this color, so we're shifting it however many degrees this direction, and this is what the shiny is going to be. And so that's why we have a lot of shinies that are like barely any different, at least in those generations. I can't account for any of the ones that are like that in future generations, because they get specifically pick them for the generations after that. But so it makes it pretty easy, because there's a lot of them that aren't very good, that nobody's like really going to bat for. Like, I don't know, what's one that barely, like Togekiss is shiny. is just like not a whole lot different, and like the entire Togepi line is just like a little bit shifted over. And then Gengar shiny is one that's Infinite Mist, of course. But so a lot of those, it's like nobody was really gunning for that shiny in the first place, and so whenever I get somebody like asking for me to change a shiny, it's usually one of those, or even if it's a more popular shiny, somebody asked me to do that. It's not that I'm like, oh, gotcha. I think this is horrible, so I'm gonna fix it.
Gross. Throw it away.
Yeah, exactly. But what I think of when I'm trying to change a shiny is I want it to be like meaningful to the typing or the Pokemon in some way. So, like, for Vaporeon shiny, it's a really cute pink already, but I was doing a series with all the evolutions, and so I made it kind of like a swampier green, which I thought was a really nice color, and I was just like, okay, no, this, like, plays into the Pokemon in, like, a different habitat it could be in or something. And my other thought is, like, if I was shiny hunting this Pokemon, what would I be, like, really excited to see on the screen? Versus, like am I squinting really hard at a Pokemon to tell if it's a shiny or not? And then maybe that's not a good shiny.
I also really like because I watched one of your videos where you took Pikachu and Raichu, and you based some of the shiny colors off of, like, what was it, Gorchu? Like the original, not original, but I proposed evolution for Raichu.
Yeah.
And that made me think of how many times, like, people don't actually know this, but like Gengar shiny, actually the line used to be pretty decent. It was actually much more blue, and then through different iterations it changed. So I really like how you did some callbacks from the past there. Do you actually know of any more? Because I didn't really look into this. Like, I didn't know Gorchu was a Raichu evolution. Do you have any others that are off the top of your head of, like, a random evolution that we may, or something that we almost had? I know a lot of Pokemon had a baby form that got completely scrapped.
I don't have any just, like, off the top of my head. Usually for these, like, when somebody will, like, be like, oh, can you change Pikachu's? Like, I've never liked that shiny. I'll do, like, a little bit of research or something. And so I know a lot. I have, like, in my head, like, some beta sprites that I have seen or whatever, but no, like, other alternate evolutions that I can really think of. I know that I almost like the beta sprite of Wooper better than what we actually have, but that's all I know.
There's actually a lot of, I don't remember if these were leaks or not, but if people are interested in seeing these, I know that there was as we were saying, a ton of scrapped sprite ideas. So if you want to go and see what your favorite Pokemon used to look like, some of them are nightmare fuel. So honestly, it's really interesting.
Beta sprite of Arceus is very funny.
I have seen that. Some of them, it's a complete 180. I really, honestly, I think I remember seeing, like, maybe it was like I always get nervous to bring up Shroomish and Breloom now. That was, like, my favorite line of Pokemon, and then now everybody ruined it.
They're excellent,
forever.
Though. They are good Pokemon.
Very good Pokemon. All right, we've reached the part of the episode where we are going to quiz our guests on some general Pokemon knowledge. Please feel free to play at home. And Finn, are you ready?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
Awesome. Okay, so first question. In what games were shiny Pokemon first introduced? Red and Blue, Ruby and Sapphire, or Gold and Silver?
Wasn't it Gold and Silver?
Gold and Silver, yeah. Yes, honestly, Gold and Silver were originally supposed to be the final games in the Pokemon series, and then they did so well that we have what we have now, so I love that. Some of my favorite games. All right, so I'm going to read you 3 different statements, and you're going to tell me if you think it's a Quagsire or a Clodsire, okay? These are Dex entries. Okay. It lives at the bottom of ponds, and it will carry small Pokemon on its back and ferry them across the water from one shore to another.
I'm gonna guess Quagsire?
It is Clodsire. He's got a much more boat shape through the water. Okay, next one. Due to its relaxed and carefree attitude, it often bumps its head on riverbed boulders and bolt holes as it swims.
I'm gonna guess Quagsire again.
Quagsire.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's actually, it's really interesting. Quagsire is like this derpy guy, and Clodsire is just not. Their dex entries are very different.
He's got a whole brain in there.
He's got a whole lot of thoughts. All right, final one. It hunts for food by leaving its mouth open wide in water and waiting for prey to wander in unaware. Because this Pokemon does not move, it does not go very hungry.
I think Clodsire is a little more immobile, maybe?
It's Quagsire. No, it's totally fine. Honestly, when I do research for these and I read Dex entries, it's like, in what world have you ever showed me that this Pokemon does this thing? That's okay. The last question you're definitely gonna get, okay?
Okay.
So every year for the Pokemon World Championships, the Pokemon Company puts up a new artwork piece featuring a bunch of different Pokemon on their homepage. This year, there are 14 of them on this artwork. Can you name as many as you can?
Oh, goodness, no.
They're in the car driving to Anaheim together on the website.
Pikachu's on there.
Pikachu's always on there.
He's got a little jacket. I know that. I have not looked at this artwork like at all.
Just throw out, let's just try to get 5 of them. So you already have Pikachu, name 4 more.
Let's see. Froakie, that's a popular one.
Froakie is on there, yeah.
Amazing. Eevee, seems like they might put an Eevee.
Eevee is not on there, surprisingly. This is Year of the Eevee.
Oh my gosh.
You would think.
Oh boy.
I'll give you a hint at one of them. If Pikachu's on here, this guy's probably not far behind him. It's the opposite number in the Pokédex.
Meowth.
It's Meowth. Yeah.
I know the Pokédex.
Yeah.
I don't know about those.
All right, okay. I'm going to give you another hint and see if you can get this one.
Okay.
This Pokemon is also from Kanto and has a very large personality.
Very large personality. Snorlax?
Snorlax is on there.
Is that the one you were giving me a hint for? Okay,
yes,
great.
it is. All right, I wanted you to try to guess this last Pokemon. I mentioned it was my husband's favorite when we were talking about the spin. I said Piplup and...
Toadschool.
Toadschool is on there, yeah.
Toadschool,
honestly,
that's such a random pull.
Honestly, the Pokemon are Vanillite, Froakie, Meowth, Machamp and Pikachu, Murkrow, Jigglypuff, Goldango on a sign, Maractus, Chespin, Clefairy, Snorlax, and Toadschool.
What a squad.
The most random group of Pokemon I have ever seen.
Well, that makes me feel a little better, because as soon as you asked the question, I was just like, oh no.
The point, it's low stakes and the points don't matter. But let me know at home how many you got right. All right, so we're going to actually go in now into some questions from the fans. So this first question comes to us from DCB60 over on YouTube. If Pokemon let you permanently recolor one shiny, what would it be? There are too many that are basically the same color, justice for Leafeon.
Justice for Leafeon. Leafeon should have an autumnal color palette, and I think everybody can agree to that.
They gave it to Breloom. I don't know why. Shroomish and Breloom have the exact coloration that it needs. Oh my gosh,
Breloom has the most beautiful shiny.
I love it so much.
Let's see. What's one? I think maybe I would change... I gotta pick from, like, my favorite Pokemon, like, Pokemon that are very near and dear to me. I think I would change, like, the whole Aeron line. It's one that I actually just recently did in a video. I just changed Aeron, but they all have the same shiny, essentially. It'd be really cool if they were all, like, gold. That would be really beautiful.
That would make a lot more sense, too, because they're, like, rock, mineral base kind of thing.
As it stands, they all just have, like, red eyes, and that's basically the only difference. Like, the rest of their body is, like, maybe a little bit, like, off shade, but they just have a red eye. I think they turn
like a blue, like a dusty...
Like, kinda, yeah, but it's, like, not so... It's not punchy enough for me, and I feel like... Because, like, Aggron AG, I think, is like, the silver... on the periodic
he
table.
Doesn't change much. I think the only one that changes really is the final one.
Yeah, and if they shifted as like AU for gold, I think that'd be pretty sweet. I think that'd be pretty nice.
I like that. And I will also say that I feel like some shinies, like, they were so good, and then they got their 3D model and they went for like a more realistic tone and like went out the door.
The 3D-ification of Pokemon is something that I think about so often.
I cry myself to sleep about it at least once a week. Okay, so our next question comes from S_Blakely2 over on Instagram. They asked what your favorite Pokemon from every region was, but for time's sake, why don't we focus on what is your favorite region and your favorite Pokemon from that region?
I want to say, well, okay, this is a little repetitive then, because I've said this a couple times on my stream, but like I like all the generations so much, but I always come back to Generation 3 as my favorite because that is when I was like growing up with Pokemon. My first game was Blue, but like things that were actively coming out was like Ruby and Sapphire and
right,
the TV show around that and everything. And so I think Gen 3 is my favorite, and then Aggron is my favorite.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Justice for Aggron. I like that. I'm a Gen 4 girly. I really started getting into Pokemon with Diamond and Pearl. So
it's an
love
generation.
So the next question is from user Initial Conference over on Reddit. Do you ever get criticized for redesigning the colors on Pokemon, or do the masses tend to agree with you?
Yeah, that'll happen from time to time because it's actually really interesting. I think I've made like 7 serious parts of my series where I fix shiny Pokemon. For April Fools, I did a little goofy one where it's just like, no, Charizard shiny is terrible. We should make it just like a slightly yellow version of it. That would be so much better. But I've done like 6 like legitimate versions of it, and for the first 5 of them, I was doing all these like creative colors for shinies and everything, and people in the comments would be like, oh, you should just like make it pure black, or you should make it just pure white, and that would be really cool. And that was like every comment. Everybody was always saying that about all of them. And then the most recent one that I just posted a couple days ago, it just happened to have a batch of Pokemon that I turned like darker, and so a lot of them had like a more prominent like black coloration on them, and people are just like, oh, just tell me you only like black shiny Pokemon. I was like, come on, y'all.
You know, you're damned if you do and if you don't.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I do feel, and here's a question for you. Do you feel, and maybe like, I feel like I see this all the time, where Pokemon has gotten into like this habit of where it's like, if a Pokemon's going to be shiny, they're either going to turn it gold, they're going to turn it green, or it's going to be like black. Like, I feel like this is exactly why we should have people like you, or artists, or fans, or people who are actually kind of doing these redesigns.
I feel like some of them have gotten a lot more interesting. I think I have talked about how I feel about like the 3D-ification of Pokemon, but with that, they have also made like the gold shinies way more interesting. Like shiny Magikarp, shiny Fortress, those are all really cool shinies now, when before they were just kind of a little meh.
They were just yellow, really.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think they're still doing like cool things, but because they have choice, like they have control over it, instead of it just being like, it's whatever this code shift ends up being. I think we should hold it to a little higher of a standard, especially for like shiny hunters, because they're like working real hard to be looking for these shiny Pokemon, and you're making them strain their eyes this hard to look for a shiny Charcadet. Like,
yeah, taking away.
So
I never understood taking away the shiny sound. I was like, look, I'm an old man.
Yeah,
I cannot. And then it's like you're gonna throw Pokemon like Togepi out there and then say good luck. But I do think it's just like you can get shinies a lot easier compared to earlier games, but I feel like it's a lot harder without that sound, which is why, how excited were you when you heard that the shiny sound was coming back for Legends?
I hadn't heard that it was coming back. I am very excited. This is wonderful.
Sorry, this was months ago. Spoiler alert for anyone listening. Yeah, shiny sound is confirmed coming back, and it's because the people from the first Legends Arceus are like, yeah, we're not gonna go that route. So I was like, thank God, please.
Yeah. Oh, the shiny sounded Legends Arceus was game changing. I did my first shiny hunts ever in my life. I had never shiny hunted before, but I did some in Scarlet and Violet because people in my community were really big into shiny hunting, and they were like, oh, we can tell you how to make a sandwich. We can tell you like what kind of like places you need to go for the shinies that you're looking for. And I was like, all right, bet, sounds good. And my very first shiny Pokemon that I caught that I was like searching for was a Wooper, and oh my gosh, I got it. I understood. I was just like,
that's amazing. I love that for you.
I'm so excited. But so I did like a little bit in that game, but then I hadn't played Pokemon Legends Arceus before, so I went back and I played that game on stream recently. And oh my gosh, hearing the sound and then seeing the little like explosion, I was just like,
this is a whole new world.
So much better. And I could see pretty well because I had a really hard time seeing the Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. They were just so pixelated.
Yeah, I also feel like I am also really kind of glad at the art style shift, because I feel like they were trying to make them like super Like they were going for like super realism kind of in Scarlet and Violet on top of their cartoonish style. Yeah. And it's like, I don't really want that. I like the art style that is cartoonish and colors pop and I can see. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Our last question comes from Matnamite, also over on Instagram.
Matnamite.
If Finn could only use one type of Pokemon for the rest of time, what would Finn choose?
I would choose ground type. It is my favorite type. I love them so much.
Oh, well, I've
also
never...
cute.
That's awesome, actually. I've never had someone answer ground. I love when underrated things in this community get love. I just think that that's so amazing. And if you want your questions answered in a future episode, use the hashtag PokeCentered Podcast over on Instagram, Twitter, or tag me, Wazakas Gaming, on literally anything. Thank you so much, Finn, for taking some time to be here on the PokeCentered Podcast. Would you like to tell everybody where they can find you?
I'm Finn.Doodles with a Z at the end on every platform except for Twitch. Somebody took my username, so I'm Finn the Doodler on Twitch. But so I am on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, Twitch, all that.
Basically the internet. You can find them on the internet. Awesome. And you can find me at Wazakas Gaming on all major platforms and the PokeCentered Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye!